In this video, we are going to go over interval notation. So if you're watching this as a part of an Algebra 1 course, you might not actually cover interval notation, but if you are in Algebra 2, you are almost definitely going to be introduced to this. So it's a very neat way of basically writing inequalities differently, right? So we're going to be able to describe intervals on a number line with interval notation. So what I like to do to explain this is to first draw out the number line representation of an inequality. So you have x is greater than or equal to 2. So on a number line, we know that that's going to be, let me make that number line a little bit darker. There we go. We know that we're going to have 2 with a closed circle shaded to the right. So what does the interval notation look like for this? Well, basically what we're doing is we're taking this number line and going wah, condensing it down, right? And it does make that sound of wah. So when you have a closed circle and you're including that endpoint, you use a bracket. Some people call it a brace, like that. So it's a bracket. And you start with the number, right, that we're at. So where are we, what are we, well, encompassing here? What are we filling up? We're starting at 2 and going to infinity. So I'm going to show that. We're starting at 2, we're including 2, and that bracket kind of hovers over and says, hey, include it, house it, shelter it, right? That symbol gives you that feeling. You put a comma, and then you put infinity. And now we're going to use a parentheses. So we're going to talk about this. So the 2 with the bracket means include it, and then go all the way to infinity, but don't include infinity because, well, you can't get to it. So the parentheses are like, whoa, hands off, dude. You cannot get to me. So that's what that is. It's like an open circle. That's it. That's the interval notation for all numbers more than or equal to 2, because all numbers more than or equal to 2 go from 2, including it, to infinity. Condensing the number line, literally taking it and going, so that you don't have to show the whole number line. Okay, let's do the next one. Here we have -2 is less than x is less than or equal to 6. So on a number line, we are going to have an open circle at -2, and then it gets shaded in all the way until a closed circle at 6. Closed circle because it's less than or equal to. So the interval notation looks like this. We're going to start at -2 to 6. Because we don't include -2, it's a parentheses. Again, hands off, don't touch, not including it. All numbers from -2, not including it, comma, and then we end at 6. But we do include 6, so we're going to have a bracket. Shelter that 6, right? So all numbers between -2 and 6, not including -2 and including 6. On to the last one. I think you're getting the hang of this, right? It's pretty sweet. It's a way, again, of condensing down the number line. So here we have x is less than 0 or x is greater than or equal to 7/5. So how do we deal with this? With or, we're actually going to do 2 separate intervals. So let's deal with that. So x is less than 0. What does that look like? Well, here I'm going to do like 2, well, I don't know. Yeah, I'll do 2 separate number lines. So x is less than 0 looks like this. I guess, you know what, I'll do the same number line. That might make more sense for you. Just thinking out loud here. So we'll shade all the way to the left, and then here we'd have 7/5 and a closed circle all the way to the right. So we're going to need 2 intervals here. We have all numbers less than 0. So, this is an interesting interval. If you have all numbers less than 0, we don't write 0 first, we write -infinity. Imagine like you're traversing the number line. You're starting way out here at -infinity, not including it, thus the parentheses, and going until you get to 0, and then not including it, so another parentheses. For the or symbol, a lot of teachers will have you write this, right? It means united with, right? So this interval or, now we're going to start at 7/5, right? Here we are in the number line starting at 7/5, comma, and we're including 7/5, thus the bracket, then we're going out to infinity because it's all numbers greater than it. That's it. So that's not written very evenly. Usually the parentheses are going to cover the entire space of the bracket there, but that's good enough. All right, so the point being here, y'all, a couple major ideas. 1, when you got a bracket, it means include the number in it. 2, parentheses, hands off, don't include the number in it. That's like an open circle, bracket is like a closed circle. 3, the biggest idea here is that you're imagining a number line. So if your interval starts at -infinity all the way to the left and then stops at 0, you should go from left to right on the number line as you would write it in interval notation. So that's it, an introduction to interval notation going from an inequality to intervals. Next, I will show you intervals to inequalities. That'll be in a later video. Pumped for it.